Hello everyone, this is Sami, the host of the Universal Webinars. I, on behalf of my whole team,
Hello everyone.
welcome.
This is Sami, the host of the Universal Webinars. I have my whole team. Hello everyone. This is Sami, the
Ma'am,
host of the Universal Webinars. I have my whole team. Hello everyone. This is Sami, the host
today
of the
our
Universal
guest
Webinars.
is Dr. Jen. I'm really sorry, audience. I'm just facing an issue with my
Our
ecosystem.
guest,
Ma'am, can you please connect the hand free with your
I'm
computer?
really sorry, audience. I'm just very
Dr. Jen, can you please connect the hand free with your computer?
sorry, audience.
I'm sorry, Sir Sammy. I can hardly
Dr.
hear
Jane, can
you.
you please connect the free with the computer?
Or just reduce the sound of your computer because it is echoing. What I'm talking with you, it is coming back from the mic to me.
All right. What about that?
Have you any hand free or the anything to
What
use?
about that?
Have you any hand free or the anything to use?
What about that? Do you mean headphones, Sir Sammy?
Yes, ma'am. I'm saying you to connect the headphones.
All right. Let me get mine. Let me get mine. Just give me a moment.
Yeah, till ma'am, you can mic or mute your mic. Thank you. So I welcome you all to the Universal Webinars. I'm really sorry for this inconvenience because of the ecosystem of ma'am Jan. We were being echo, so that's why I just say her to go and connect the hand free. Till that, I'm going with the short introduction of our today's webinar, and I'm going to tell you about the sessions of the webinar. First of all, as you all know, that today the topic of the webinar is learner-centered education, pushing boundaries through the interdisciplinary collaborations, which will be presented to you by Dr. JENNILYN. So, as far as the introduction of Dr. is concerned, Dr. JENNILYN is a doctor in development and education, a master of arts in education, and major administration and supervision. Has completed her academic requirements in master education, major in English language teaching, a graduate of bachelor's of elementary education. She was elementary teacher at Talisa City Central Elementary School Department of Education, Talisa City Division for 6 years. She gained the highest level of elementary teaching license, which is level 3 in the New Mexico Public Education Department in the US of United States of America in 2019, where she also taught as an elementary teacher at La Tyra Montessori School in Espanola. She is currently the Telisa City College Alumni Association president as well as instructor at Telisa City College, handling professional education and elementary specialization subject as well as minor education subjects. She is also a research facilitator and advisor at the same college. So this was a short introduction of Dr. Jain, and that was amazing, actually. So yeah, you have achieved a lot, Dr. Jain, and thank you for being with us to share your knowledge with the whole audience. So after the short introduction of Dr. Janisa, I'm going to tell you something about our today's sessions that what we will have today. Actually, we will have three sessions today. The one will be of the presentation, which will be presented in front of you by Dr. Jain. And after the presentation of Dr. Jain, then we will have the second session of our guest. And the guest will be come here and will ask a few questions from Dr. Jain. She will reply to them, and then after that we will have the last session from you people. We will take your question answers, and Dr. Jain will reply to you all. A little bit of the guidance for your favor and for your understanding is that we will have a feedback form link session. It can be at any time in the last session, means during the question answer session. We can do it in the start, we can also do it in the middle or in the last. What actually it is, feedback form is a form which make us enable to send you the certificates. You peoples do what? Sometimes you go fast, sometimes you didn't fill it, sometimes you leave that form, or sometimes you didn't get the link actually, and you can't fill that form, and then you text us or email us that we haven't received the certificates. I repeat, the certificate process is actually generated by the Google. Once you will not put your email in that form, we will not be able to send you certificate in that case. But we can do that for you if you are facing any authentic error and you are sending us a screenshot of that error, that this is the error with us. And why the peoples are not getting the link, a little bit of advice for them is that if you are joining us through the YouTube application, means the YouTube app itself, then you should have to join your you should have to sign in that from the Google. But if you are joining from the browser or anything else, make sure to sign in first, because the comment section will be only visible to those who will be signed in. And once we will share the link, we will also tell you on the live that we have shared the link, and we will also share it around about 50 times in the comment section, not one time. So be aware about that to fill that link. And other than that, the other thing is that one the person who will be active, it can be one, two, three, four. Those who will be active will give a chance to be our live guest, even though they can get a chance to be our speaker as well, because we are going to give the chances to the new generations as well, because we have done so far webinars with the new peoples as well. So you peoples as a student can also do a webinar as a speaker, but for that you will have to be very much active in this webinar. You will have to comment, you will have to ask questions from Dr. Jain, and you will have to interact with Dr. Jain through the comment section, that she can also enjoy your presence. She doesn't feel that she is only giving presentation in front of only screen. So that's all from my side. Thank you very much, people. Now I will welcome our today's speaker, Dr. Jain, on the screen, and will also give all the proceedings to Dr. Jain. Welcome, ma'am. So give all the proceedings to Dr. Jain.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mohammed Sami, for that warm introduction. And thank you also for the guidance that you provided to our participants. To all of our participants here from all over the world, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. And I'd like to welcome you all to this international webinar on learner-centered education, pushing boundaries through interdisciplinary collaborations. Okay, learner-centered education, pushing boundaries through interdisciplinary collaborations. Since the pandemic started, it has been a common knowledge, experience, predicament, and battle to all of us that there are major changes in various facets of life, from the ways we communicate with people to the way we care for others, work, educate our children, and to many more. According to John Bartram in his journal on educational changes caused by the pandemic and other related social issues, we all go through changes every day, and then we learn to adapt to the situation brought by that change. The pandemic has caused schools to close and has brought us to this so called new normal of education. This has altered most of the educational situations, most particularly the educational systems in the different sides of the world. But there is one thing that remains the same, and that is education stays, education survives, education continues to live for our learners, for our students. We embrace change, we adapt to the new normal, we continue to evolve, innovate, navigate, and collaborate because despite all these changes, we continue to believe that learner centeredness in education stays true. Topic objectives. At the end of this session, the participants are able to identify teacher and learner centered philosophical perspectives in teaching, differentiate the teacher centered and learner centered teaching, make or enhance own teaching philosophy adhering to learner centered teaching, apply the learner centered psychological principles, distinguish the different learner centered pedagogy, give appropriate teaching strategy for a specific learning topic in a specific subject area, and create learner centered instructional strategy. Learner centered education. What is it? Basically, it focuses on the information that students are learning, how they are learning it, the circumstances in which they are learning it, whether they are remembering and using it, and how their current learning prepares them for future learning. There could be many instances in our classroom wherein we are too confident with all the preparations we made prior to the delivery of instruction, from careful planning of our lessons to crafting the best instructional materials, constructing test questions, and so on and so forth. We believe that our students are learning. There are times that we tend to overlook what exactly they are learning and how they are learning, and whether they are merely storing information in their heads or they are applying these knowledge contextually and using them to learn more and to become effective individuals at present and in the future. See, this is why learner centeredness in education is being emphasized. It is for us to be reminded all the time that education is here. Education continues to live not solely because of us, teachers or educators, but it's because of our learners, our students, because after all, they are the key participants of the teaching learning process. Now, let me share to you the 5 characteristics of learner centered teaching. Learner centered teaching engages students in the hard, messy work of learning. Aristotle said, "The roots of education are bitter, but the fruit is sweet." Learner centered teaching is when teachers choose carefully the specific teaching approach, method, strategy, and technique to ensure active students' involvement in the process, no matter how challenging or how difficult it may get along the way. Putting this into the present context, this gave rise to technology and its advancements and its roles to education, specifically this time of remote learning. The use of online tools and platforms such as IXL, which is one of the many online tools that we use at La Tierra Montessori School of the Arts and Sciences in Española, New Mexico, USA. We use this specific online tool to track the progress of our students, particularly in their knowledge and skills in the different subject areas such as English, mathematics, science, and social studies. And we also have Kahoot, Zoom, Skype, which are widely used. And of course, how can we forget? We have Microsoft Teams, which is being used in the Department of Education here in the Philippines, and Google Classroom, which is very true at 𝘆cie City College, the institution where I am presently connected with, and all others. These play very important roles in making and sustaining students' engagement while in the process. We admit it, it was not easy, it was hard and messy at the beginning, but still we chose to jump into the waters and learn to swim with our students, for our students. The next characteristic is it includes explicit skill instruction. Learner centered teaching is by nature a teacher led method wherein teachers give clear, guided instructions to students. This is the other way of saying that teaching nowadays should be something that is the teacher is acting as a facilitator of learning rather than the sole source of information. This means that as we try to involve them or our students in the process by providing them with all these student engaging activities, we should not fail to establish clear cut and finite ways that would help our students to see the small steps and would help us as teachers to check their understanding. That explains that in the absence of conventional classroom nowadays, we have resorted to modular distance learning, online distance learning, TV or radio based learning, blended learning, homeschooling, and right now, as we slowly or gradually transition to the face to face classes, we have this what we call hybrid education. The third characteristic is it encourages students to reflect on what they are learning and how they are learning it. And this paves way to metacognition. Metacognition pertains to the individual's awareness and understanding of his or her own thought processes. This fosters reflective thinking that can be manifested by both teachers and students and everyone else. Metacognition includes the ability to ask and answer the following questions. What do I know about this subject, topic, issue? Do I know what I need to know? Do I know where I can go get some information and knowledge? How much time will I need to learn this? What are some strategies and tactics that I can use to learn this? Do I understand what I just heard, read, and saw? To give you a specific example, let me present to you uh, this example here that was taken from Livingston in 1997. I know that I have difficulty with word problems, so I will answer the computational problems first and save the word problems for last. As you can see, in metacognition, there are three variables. We have the present variable that could be a student, a teacher, or anyone else. And we also have the task variable that may include the nature of the task and the processing demands that could be placed upon the individual or the person variable. And then the last one is the strategy variable. So this is a set of actions that could be undertaken to address the particular task or to be able to achieve the particular task. So in this example here, our person variable is represented with the pronoun I, which, like I said earlier, it could be a student, a teacher, or anyone else. But in this example, most probably this refers to a student. The task variable is word problem. So in this example, the person, the student, for example, is having this difficulty in solving word problems. And being aware of this difficulty, he or she is going to think of a strategy that could address this particular difficulty or challenge. So this is what he thinks or she thinks. He or she will answer the computational problems first and save the word problems for last. So that's how metacognition works. It's about being aware of oneself. It's about being aware of your own thought processes. And because you are aware of yourself, because of you are aware of what's going on around you or inside you, internally or externally, you are going to think of the ways to address for you to be able to undertake this particular situation that you are in. That is metacognition. So it is reflective thinking. Now let us have the fourth characteristic. Learner-centered teaching motivates students by giving them some control over learning processes. This is by allowing our students' voice to be heard, by giving them freedom to express themselves, for them to explore their choices, discover challenging ideas, evaluate situations, and construct new knowledge and skills independently. The last one is it encourages collaboration. Having and being part of this international webinar is a very good example of collaboration. This is how exactly collaboration works. Through collaboration, we are able to communicate, plan or program activities, work with other people's concepts and ideas, and of course, grow from each other. In the classroom, by allowing our students to do peer-to-peer or large group activities, we are helping our students develop not just their higher level thinking abilities, but also their confidence and their self-esteem. Now let us have the major educational philosophies, and these are classified into two. We have the teacher-centered philosophies, and the other ones are the student-centered philosophies. So let us have the teacher-centered philosophies. First one is essentialism. Essentialism is the educational philosophy of teaching basic skills. What are these basic skills? These are reading, writing, and arithmetic in the elementary, and the additions of science, history, and foreign language in the secondary school. Meaning to say, it focuses on the essentials or the most important parts of learning. That is why, looking back to those good old days when our teachers used to feed us with almost everything with the belief that this is the only way our students can learn. Those days when the sole source of information is the teacher. Next is perennialism. The goal of a perennialist educator is to teach students to think rationally and develop minds that can think critically. And this should happen by focusing on the ideas that have lasted over centuries, emphasizing the value of ideas written in the past as equally true, meaningful, and important at present. An example of such is by exposing our students to these so-called great books, such as history, and we also have this Shakespeare's Macbeth, which I believe that you are very familiar of, making them read, analyze, reason out, which is the purpose of emphasizing reading, writing, speaking, and listening in the early grades. Now let us have the student-centered philosophies. To start up with, we have progressivism. The progressivist classroom is about exploration and experience. It suggests that education must be holistic. It should focus on the whole child rather than on the content or on the teacher. John Dewey, on his theory of learning by doing, strongly believed that students learn more when they are actually doing the activity. For example, if you want your students to develop their oral communication skills, you have to design an activity that will make your students actually demonstrate it, such as conducting an interview, role playing, radio broadcasting, or word games, and all the others. Humanism. The learner is self motivated to achieve towards the highest level possible. Humanistic teachers believe that knowledge and feelings go hand in hand. That is why one domain of our learning objectives is intended for effective development. This also reminds us about one element of the teaching learning process, which is the learning environment. We know that creating a safe and secure learning environment not only promotes greater chance of academic achievement or academic success, but also positive relationships between teachers, students, parents, and the whole community. Next is constructivism. Cognitivists or constructivists believe that the learner actively constructs his or her own understandings of reality. This requires experience, reflection, construction, and incorporation. When teachers facilitate rich learning experiences, students are able to reflect upon them, build their own representation and meanings, and incorporate these new information into their pre-existing knowledge, or better known as schemas. For example, when a teacher allows his or her students to experiment on how to amplify a smartphone using paper cups and toilet paper tubes, the students get to discover that the sound can really be amplified even in the absence of a Bluetooth speaker. Reflect on what makes it work. Think of other materials like glass, maybe, or plastic cups that can work with the same transmission of sound vibrations. Try it using the same method and see if it works exactly the same with the first material. Let us now have the learner centered psychological principles. They focus on psychological factors that are primarily internal to and under the control of the learner rather than conditioned habits or physiological factors. However, the principles also attempt to acknowledge external environment or contextual factors that interact with these internal factors. Over the years, we know how psychology contributes significant information for the designing and redesigning of education based on theories and research on human learning, development, and motivation. The learner centered principles work of the American Psychological Association's Board of Educational Affairs offered the following 14 learner centered psychological principles, which are classified as cognitive and metacognitive, motivational and affective, developmental and social, and individual differences factors. Let us begin with the cognitive and metacognitive factors. The first one, nature of the learning process. The learning of complex subject matter is most effective when it is an intentional process of constructing meaning from information and experience. From its description, intentional, or yes, intentional process. This explains very well why we need to plan our lesson very carefully prior to instruction delivery. Thus requires us to work, of course, with our lesson plans. This eases the planning stage of instruction by identifying specific learning objectives, keeping in mind the topic or the competency to be carried out or to be taught, the type and level of audience or learners, the learning environment, and of course, the learning modality. Considering all these, we are able to decide on particular teaching approach, method, strategy, and technique, and of course, assessment that are agreeably appropriate to whatever learning situations we are in. Number two, goals of the learning process. The successful learner, over time and with support and instructional guidance, can create meaningful, coherent representations of knowledge. In formulating specific goals or objectives, it is suggested to begin with an end in mind. This helps us to obtain specific direction in the development of the lesson by using the probable result, outcome, product as the basis. Asking questions like, what do we want our students to become or to produce after the lesson? How will we be able to help them achieve this? What could be the activities we could provide them to help them enhance their knowledge and skills? How can this be of help to them once they go out of school? So these are the specific questions that you may consider once you are going to formulate your learning objectives for a particular subject matter, regardless of what subject. Next is construction of knowledge. The successful learner can link new information with existing knowledge in meaningful ways. One goal of learner centered education is making certain that students can make use of this newly learned information in connecting, incorporating, and integrating to prior knowledge. For example, a student, after learning the concept of social linguistic competence, is able to vary his or her language or word choice depending on the given sociocultural context in speaking with different people. Let us say, expressing strong views about politics and religion over dinner is generally avoided. However, this rule can be moderated depending on the relationship between the guest and the host. Next is strategic thinking. The successful learner can create and use a repertoire of thinking and reasoning strategies to achieve complex learning goals. It pertains to the student's ability to plan for the future. For example, in preparation for an examination the next day, a child would look closely into the possible points that may come out during the examination, highlight some keywords, uses mnemonics, and other study strategies. Next is thinking about thinking. Higher order strategies for selecting and monitoring mental operations facilitate creative and critical thinking. This sounds very familiar, I should say, because this is the similar phase of metacognition, which we already talked about earlier. It is one of the characteristics of learner centered education. Like, as a good reader, before you totally dive in and read that book, you have to ask yourself, what is my purpose of reading this book? And that is by maybe considering the preview text. So that is thinking about thinking. Next is context of learning. Learning is influenced by environmental factors, including culture, technology, and other instructional practices. Very true. I should say, every little thing on this planet contributes to learning, whether it turns out to be a failure or a success. Everything in here, tangible or intangible, influences learning. That is why understanding the context of learning is so important. We are getting into this remote learning, obviously, because we are considering the present demands of time. We have resorted to selecting the most essential learning competencies over those ones that had long been established before the pandemic because it is what time calls us for. Now let us have the motivational and affective factors. Motivational and emotional influences on learning. What and how much is learned is influenced by the motivation. Motivation to learn in return or in turn is influenced by the individual's emotional states, beliefs, interests, and goals, and habits of thinking, which is why we are having these psychological principles, and which also explains why the very first part of the lesson procedure is the motivation. Because, hey, teacher, you've got to start this class right. And starting the class right means you should change the scenery. You should turn this boring classroom into an interesting one. You offer varied experiences. Stop being predictable. Use positive competition, or come on, hey, offer some rewards. And all these are attached to emotional states, beliefs, interests, and goals, and habits of thinking. Next is the intrinsic motivation to learn. The learner's creativity, higher order thinking, and natural curiosity all contribute to motivation to learn. Intrinsic motivation is stimulated by tasks of optimal novelty and difficulty, relevant to personal interests, and providing for personal choice and control. These are like allowing your students to play Mobile Legends because they enjoy how it makes them feel, or using positive affirmations because you want to change their mindset positively. If instead of exhausting yourself because you would always want to totally eliminate this Mobile Legend from your students, why don't you bring it to your classroom? Take a risk and make use of it purposefully. In the advent of the new normal of education, there is this big university, one of the prestigious universities here in the Philippines, which makes use of Mobile Legends as an alternative for PE class. Yes, that's right. And we have effects of motivation and effort. Acquisition of complex knowledge and skills requires extended learner effort and guided practice. Without learners' motivation to learn, the willingness to exert this effort is unlikely without coercion. Motivation leads to increased effort. So if there is this thing that the student wants to pursue, that requires extended effort. It needs not only initiation, but also persistence. Now let us have the developmental and social factors. Developmental influences on learning. As individuals develop, there are different opportunities and constraints for learning. Learning is most effective when differential development within and across physical, intellectual, emotional, and social domains is taken into account. A child's development and personality will depend on a variety of important aspects, including genetics, environmental factors, parenting methods, friends, teachers, and the culture at large. Social influences on learning. Learning is influenced by social interactions, interpersonal relations, and communication with others. Our contacts with other people have a huge impact on how we learn, and and this influence starts as soon as we are born. Our initial and most important relationships are with our families, followed by those with our parents, especially with our moms. The fundamental human abilities of knowing, caring, and willingness are involved in our interactions with others and promote growth. In addition to assisting us in validating or changing our perception of the world and of ourselves, relationships also assist others in doing the same. Now, the last set is the individual differences factors. Individual differences in learning. Learners have different strategies, approaches, and capabilities for learning that are a function of prior experience and heredity. According to Kazgun and 𝘪𝗪𝗂 in 2004, the most common differences of learners are gender, age, intelligence, interest, prior knowledge, learning style, motivation, locus of control, self efficacy, and epistemological beliefs. Recent educational research indicates that learners differ in their preferences for learning mode and strategies. Implications for instruction and assessment are discussed as they relate to the theory of multiple intelligences of Howard Gardner in 1983, which I know that everyone here is very familiar of the eight multiple intelligences of Howard Gardner. Next is learning and diversity. Learning is most effective when differences in learners' linguistic, cultural, and social backgrounds are taken into account. Diversity is everything that makes people different from each other. This includes many different factors such as race, gender, ethnicity, sexual orientation, socioeconomic status, ability, age, religious belief, or even political conviction. All these factors work together to inform how students and teachers and everyone else encounter the world. Students benefit from diversity in the classroom by growing their social awareness, which enables them to respect many viewpoints and reach more firm judgments. In addition to teaching children how to engage socially with their peers and provide them skills they can use for the rest of their lives, challenging them to consider alternative viewpoints can also teach students how to think critically. Then the last one is standards in assessment. Setting appropriately high and challenging standards in assessing the learner as well as learning progress, including diagnostic, process, and outcome assessment, are integral parts of the learning process. The most crucial part or step for teachers who want to develop their practice in standards based assessment is to decide what outcomes they want for their students to achieve. Questions like, what do you hope they will understand and be able to do at the end of their course? Are the desired outcomes evident, quantifiable, and implementable? Most importantly, why did you select these abilities over alternative possibilities? So this would lead us back to our learning objectives that we formulated or that we set when we are going to decide what type or what kind of assessment we are going to use to measure our students' learning. We have to have this well aligned with the formulated instructional objectives or learning objectives. So even not just in terms of assessment, but even on deciding what particular approach, what specific method or strategy, and of course, realized by the different activities that you would want your students to engage in, we always have to go back to our learning objectives because, of course, those are set because these are going to serve as our directions. And upon formulating these objectives, just like what I said earlier, we have to begin with an end in mind. So the same thing in deciding on what particular assessment type or tool we are going to provide our students with in measuring their learning. Okay, we have to go back to our learning objectives because we have to see to it that all our objectives are attained after our lesson. Now, let us have the learner centered pedagogy methods and strategies. Approach. I know that this is not new to you. It is a broader term than method, it is a view of looking at things generally. It is one's philosophy of teaching that may include set of principles, beliefs, or ideas about the nature of learning. This can specifically manifested by a teacher who focuses on student experiences by providing experiential activities to the students, remembers to teach the students and not the content, professional development, and all the others. An example of which is the child centered approach. This places a much stronger emphasis on the learner's role in the learning process. And this makes the teachers as facilitators of learning. So there should be more coming from the students rather than coming from the teacher. Method. It is a step-by-step scientific way of presenting the subject matter. It is overall plan for systematic presentation based on a selected approach, which means method is the practical realization of an approach through a procedure in a system. Okay, so a teaching method comprises the general principles, pedagogy, and management strategies used for classroom instruction. For example, we have the cooperative learning method, which is very learner centered. Cooperative learning method is also known as collaborative learning method, which encourages students to work together on learning tasks in small groups. And another is the inquiry-based learning method that engages students is in establishing real-world connections through exploration and high-level questioning. So that's where the name comes from, inquiry-based, because it deals with high-level questioning. Strategy. It refers to the pattern of acts that serve to attain certain outcomes. If we use strategy in teaching learning situations, then it is known as instructional strategies. Okay. These are the practices that teachers use to engage students in better learning. And with that, these are some of the widely known or widely used instructional strategies. We have the KWL, which has been enhanced into its new version, which is KWHLAQ. And this type of strategy is very good or very suitable in developing our students' metacognition skills. And then we have brainstorming, which is very common, social media, discussion, small group, jigsaw, which is also continuously evolving, experiment, role play, simulation, workshop, demonstration, inquiry based, index card, project based learning, discovery learning, Q&A session, which we will be having later after my talk, and then games, competitions, debate, and mental models. Now, let us have flexible learning and teaching. It aims to create conditions which are suitable for a closer relationship between the teacher and pupil. But before analyzing these conditions in some detail, it is worth dwelling briefly on the label: flexible learning and teaching. I would say presenting this one to you is very timely, especially that we are actually adapting this kind of learning and teaching process nowadays. And this is what pushing boundaries through interdisciplinary collaborations is all about. Today, we are extending beyond the limits caused by this pandemic. Evidently, we have been increasingly freed from the limitations of the time, place, and pace of study as we continue to communicate, collaborate, and work together as one in the pursuit of providing our children with sustainable development through education. And of course, this is to achieve this, what we call quality education. Differentiated instruction. To differentiate instruction is to recognize students' varying background knowledge, readiness, language, preferences in learning, interests, and to react responsively. Even before doing this profiling among our students on the very first day of the class, being trained for 4 years or so in education, we are already aware that our students come to us with varying situations. And that is something that we have to recognize. There are, of course, they are different individuals coming from different backgrounds, and they do have different stories to tell, different levels of readiness, different choices and interests, and thus they have different responses to learning and should make us tailor instruction according to all these varying learning needs. When we say varying learning needs, different learning needs. That is why there is this common notion that says there is no best, or there is no such thing as best method, because what is best for one person or one student may not be the best for the other. And there are four elements of differentiated instruction. We have content. It is what the student needs to learn or how the student will get access to the information. And then we have process. These are the activities in which the student engages in order to make sense of or master the content. And yes, as we go along in the development of the lesson and as we choose what particular method and strategy we are going to implement or employ in our teaching of this particular topic, we are going to select the best activities that are, of course, suitable for this particular subject matter. So it's not just about, when you are going to decide what motivation or what activity you're going to provide your students with for as motivation, you're going to, let us say, let them sing or dance or do an action song without making sure that this is something relevant to your lesson. So that is really something that we have to consider. Every bit, every bit of the process, every bit of the step of the process should be carefully chosen, should be carefully selected. And then we have product, the culminating projects that ask the student to rehearse, apply, and extend what he or she has learned in a unit. So we have to think about what is this something that we are aiming for our students to produce or to achieve at the end of the lesson. Okay, and it has to be something that is not just for the sake of knowing or for the sake of gaining knowledge, but it should be something that makes our students apply or, let us say, utilize these knowledge and construct new information by connecting these newly learned information to the prior knowledge or to the pre-existing knowledge. Then we have learning environment, which is one of the elements of the teaching learning process. It's the way the classroom works and feels, okay, which is also considered as equally important, right? Of course, we have heard this very common expression, or not just a mere expression, but it is true that we have to provide our children or our learners with this environment that is conducive for learning, because it is very influential on how much learning they would get and how they would be able to learn things. Now, let us have the characteristics of smart learners. Okay, the smart learners, represented by the letter S from the acronym there, SMART. Smart learners see the possibilities, which means that they are open to new ideas and paradigms and keen to experiment. And M stands for make informed choices, which means that they can critically reflect on their own learning and change their learning style according to the task in hand, which is very metacognition. So metacognition is really closely attached to learner-centered education. Next is A, are active learners. They can initiate their own learning strategies and know how to achieve deep as opposed to surface learning. That is why we should also allow our students to take control of their own learning. That is very learner-centeredness. And then R is ready to learn. They are motivated and self-regulated, not wanting a transmissive style of teaching. So when we say transmissive, that's the very nature of just giving our students with pure lecture, and the teacher is there as the sole information of I mean as the sole source of information, and of course your class wouldn't be as interactive as how it should be, because everything comes from the teacher, and that is not the very nature of learner-centeredness. And next is take control of their own learning environment. They understand how to learn and work well in a facilitative learning situation. So the word facilitative there is very important. Being the facilitators of learning, us teachers, we are the facilitators of learning. We are there to guide them. We are there to initiate and to motivate them to pursue on whatever task that they are given, that they have to engage in or that they have to finish after the lesson, and how these things would be able to help them as they transform positively into becoming the better version of themselves. So that is the end of my presentation. And before I totally end this discussion, let me leave to you this quote. In teaching, what is the most considerably essential is not what we teach. It's what and how the students learn and the degree of probability of authentic learning manifested by turning students into effective members of the global community. Thank you so much for listening, everyone.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. The presentation was very much worthy and knowledgeful, and it was amazing. Thank you very much, ma'am. So, as we all know, that after this session, we have the second session of our guest, and our guest is also with us. We will join her soon. But before joining her, I'm going to describe you a few things for you. Ma'am, can you please mute your mic? Dr. Jane, can you please mute your mic?
All right.
Okay, so now I'm going to tell you a few things because now all of our participants have joined us. So I just want to repeat the instruction for 1 minute. Those who are willing to get the certificate and those who want to get the certificate, they have to fill the feedback form link, which is very much compulsory to get the certificate. And how you will fill the feedback form link and feedback form, and where from you will get the link. You will get the link from the comment section at any time, so you have to be active and look at the comment section. And once you get the link, just go and click on that or paste it in any browser and then fill that form. And if you are facing any issue to fill that, and if you are facing any error in that, you can take the screenshot of that, and then you have to get a screenshot sent back to us to sort out that issue. Now, after this whole conversation, I'm going to join my today's guest. Today's our guest who is from the Okada, Pakistan. She's the student of linguistics uh, honors. She's Aliza Shah Shahid. Welcome, Aliza Shahid, to the Universal Webinars.
Thank you, Sami. I'm here. How are you all?
We are fine. So now I proceedings to you, Miss Aliza. You can ask questions from Dr. Jen.
Okay, sure. Since I'm watching the webinar from the very beginning, a lot of queries have got clear, but still there are some questions that I want to ask from Dr. Jain. Should I?
Dr. Jain, you can process with the guest. You can unmute yourself and talk with the guest. Dr. Jain, you can process with the guest. You can unmute
All
yourself and
right.
talk with the guest.
Yes, good evening, Miss Aliza Shahid.
Good evening, ma'am. How are you?
I'm good. What about you?
I'm fine, Alhamdulillah. Ma'am, I'm about to ask you some questions regarding this webinar. So my very first question is that what strategies should be adopted to promote learner-centered education? So my very first question is that what strategies should be adopted to promote learner-centered education?
All right. Thank you so much, Miss Aliza Shahid, for your question. So earlier, I gave some examples of widely used instructional strategies, and one of which is the KWL, or its enhanced version, which is the KWHLAQ. And this strategy is very good to use for our students to practice their metacognition skills, as before they are going to really learn a newly introduced concept, they have to reflect on themselves. What are these things that they already know about the topic to be introduced? And what are these things that they want to know? And the things that they have already learned. So that is one instructional strategy that can be used to promote learner centeredness. And aside from this, there is also this choice boards, which allow our students to select activities that they will complete to practice a skill or demonstrate understanding. And there is also Jigsaw, which has already evolved and been combined into a center or station strategy. So I believe I provided 20 instructional strategies as examples of instructional strategies that can, foster learner-centeredness.
Thank you, ma'am. Miss Alize, you can ask the question.
Thank you, ma'am. Got it. And the second question is that how student-centered learning approach is superior than the teacher-centered learning, as
Miss
there is hype
Aliza,
of
I think you're facing
teacher-centered
the
learning.
internet issue. Your voice is buffering.
Okay, I repeat. How student-centered learning approach is
Ma'am,
superior
we
than
can't hear you.
teacher-centered learning. I repeat. How student-centered learning approach is superior than teacher-centered learning.
All right. How student centered learning is superior than teacher centered learning. Wow. Well, it's safe to say that learner centered teaching is better than teacher centered teaching. I am afraid I cannot use the word superior because teacher centered teaching is also helpful in some other ways. But yes, learner centered teaching is better because looking into the very nature of learner centeredness, um, uh, putting our students at the center of learning, which is justifiable enough since they are the key participants of the process. So, in here, teachers at their very best uh, put all their passion, their dedication, efforts, and time, and the 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 professionalism, of course, to ensure this what we call quality education by providing our students with lifelong learning. So the center of learner-centered education, as the name implies, is our learners, and being them as the key participants of the teaching learning process, then it is really better to promote learner centeredness rather than teacher centered education, which only focuses on the content or on the teacher.
Thank you, ma'am. It's clear. Thanks a lot.
Thank you,
And
ma'am.
there's
Miss
another
Aliza,
question.
go for the other
Yes,
question.
yes, sure. Ma'am, the third question from you is that are there any limitations in learner-centered learning? Ma'am, the third question from you is that are there any limitations in learner-centered learning?
Yes, yeah, that's a very good question. We know that everything in life in general has its limitations, and everything we do, we should set boundaries, right? We should set limitations. So, um, yes, there is limitations. Too much of anything is bad enough. So yes, there are limitations. In our classroom, we establish our own rules and regulations. That is to keep this order and to manage our classroom very well. So having this rules and regulations, this is to regulate things that are happening inside our classroom, from how we manage our students, from how we handle them, to how we want them to participate in the activities that we provide to them. And yes, to mention one, learner-centered education requires a longer time for students. So something is challenging to achieve, the curriculum targets. And it also requires special skills for teachers to be able to employ learner-centeredness in the classroom. That is why, as teachers, we should not stop learning. We should never stop seeking for professional and personal growth, so that we cannot be outsmarted by our students, and we don't want ourselves to become obsolete, right? So yes.
That's great, ma'am. Miss Aliza, you can go for your last question.
Thank you. Ma'am, my last question from you is that as there is hype of teacher-centered education, and it's the method followed by majority of our educational institutes. So, in your opinion, I want to ask about that what, in your opinion, is the need of current era? Either we should promote learner-centered education or teacher-centered education. the need of current era is that we should promote
As a
learner-centered
teacher
education or
for
teacher-centered education.
as a teacher for 14 years, I have been I have found it myself how effective learner-centered education has been. So yes, for me, learner-centered teaching needs to be promoted, and not just to be promoted, but to be enriched in this generation.
That's great. So I think you have answered all four questions of Miss Aliza.
Thank you, Mr. Sammy.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank
So
you,
Miss
ma'am.
Aliza, is all four questions
Yes,
are very much clear to you?
yes, it's clear. Thank you,
Miss
ma'am.
Aliza, is all four
Yes,
questions are very much clear to you?
yes, it's clear, ma'am.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you
Here,
very much for
I would
joining
like
us.
to thank
And
you
hopefully
for
we will
clearing all the
have more
queries.
sessions with you,
Yeah,
Miss
ma'am.
Aliza. Thank you, ma'am.
Here,
Thank you very
I would
much.
like to thank
And
you
hopefully
for
we will
clearing all the
have
queries.
more sessions. You're welcome, ma'am. You're welcome.
Ma'am, really, it was a really informative session, and I have literally have learned a lot. A lot of queries got clear, and even my personal queries and the objectives that I found, they got clear. Thank you so much. It was pleasure being with you. And even my personal queries and the objectives that I found, they got clear. Thank you so much. It was pleasure being with
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. Thank you, Miss Aliza. So, and now as far as the other session is concerned, I request all of the audience to leave their questions that ma'am can answer them. So, ma'am, we are taking 1 minute break to select the questions. Leave your questions that ma'am can answer. So, ma'am, we are taking 1 minute break to select the questions.
All right. Thank you.
Ma'am, we are taking 1 minute break to all of you have to comment your questions into the comment section that Dr. Jain can answer your questions. And I repeat the other thing which I have already told you, the one who will be more active will get a chance to be our next guest or our speaker. I repeat, the one who will be more active in the comment section can get a chance to be our next speaker or guest. Comment your questions that we can take them and Dr. Jain can answer you. You will not get an opportunity like this. A professor like Dr. Jain is with you to answer your questions. Only a few people are getting this opportunity. Just imagine there are billions of people on the earth. Only 300 are here with ma'am. Ask the questions. So you are the lucky ones. Please go ahead for the questions if you have. So, ma'am, we have a few questions. We are going for them as well once the questions are going to be pasted. Here is the one. Ma'am, can you read that one on the screen or should I repeat it for you?
Yes, it's visible, Mr. Sammy.
Ma'am, can you read
So
that one on the screen or should I
the
repeat it
question
for you?
says, what fundamental concepts in education technology is the most helpful in a learner centered classroom? So, like I said earlier, with the advancements of technology and its roles in remote learning, we have been adapting to the different online tools and platforms for us to be able to cater our students' needs even in the remote learning. So, even teachers who are not really experts of technology, we are trying to learn and we are trying to. That is why I said earlier that we choose to swim or we choose to jump into the waters and learn to swim with our students and for our students. So yes, there has been plenty of, assistance, or let us say resources that we can get from the web if we are not really into technology. And technology integration is not new to us. Even before the pandemic, it has already been integrated to the different disciplines or to different subject areas. So I believe it would be easy for us already to adapt to this what we call education technology in as part of the learner-centered classroom. This what we call education technology in as part of the learner-centered classroom.
Here is the other one, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, so is there a correlation between student-centered learning and CLT? So is there a correlation between Mr. Emmanuel, can you please clarify to me what is CLT mean? What does CLT mean? Emmanuel, can you please clarify to me what is CLT mean? What does CLT mean? Okay, so while waiting for Mr. Emmanuel, Mr. Sammy, can I answer the next question first? The
Yeah,
next
yes, ma'am.
question is,
Yeah, ma'am. Go for the
what
next
should
question.
what should the outcomes be for education in a learner-centered paradigm? Okay, so this is a very good question. Our main goal, or the bottom line, or let us say the boiling point of promoting and employing learner-centeredness in education is for us to be able to produce students, or let us say individuals who are effective and functioning, or let us say well-functioning members, or functional members of the society. So we know that in the classroom, yes, we pour them with we fill them with all these knowledge and skills, but in the long run, these knowledge and skills that are developed inside the classroom should be utilized in real life situations. So yes, it's very important that even after, or let us say when they go out of school, they're able to function, they're able to survive life, because these are how they were taught in the classroom when they are with us. So that is the very essence of learner centeredness.
Yes, ma'am. The next one is on the screen.
How can we apply blended learning in offline classroom teaching? So yeah. So the very nature of blended learning is it is a method of teaching that integrates technology and digital media with traditional instructor-led classroom activities. And we know that when we speak about technology, most of the time we think of it as something that is going on online. But we know also that we can manipulate in some parts of, let us say, online platforms or online tools where we can make some materials accessible offline. So with that, even without the accessibility of internet, our students would be able to access our instructional materials, and it just have to be we have to set it up in the settings depending on the platform that we use. And then we also have what we call modular learning, which can be also associated or can be applied to blended learning even in the offline setting.
Yes, ma'am. The other one is already on the screen, ma'am.
What do you think stops some teachers in employing learner centered education inside their respective classes? Okay, so um, maybe it's not about something that it's their choice to stop. Maybe it is just that there are circumstances in our in the field, in the teaching field, I mean, that we don't have the time, the access to let us say have this professional growth, especially considering the number of responsibilities that we take every day, especially here in the Philippines. Our public school teachers in the Department of Education have many things to do. And it's not really that it's intentional that they do not want to practice or employ learner-centered education. It is just that sometimes they are left with no choice because they have other things to do. So it's just a matter of really promoting it inside the school. It should start from the heads, and implementing this one inside the classroom. So it's just a matter of enriching learner centeredness.
Thank you, ma'am. The other one is on screen.
What do you think are the adjustment needed for our students who's facing current situation due to the pandemic? How does it affect the attainment of the goal of the learner-centered approach? So actually, Miss Renance I am having this research, and it is still an ongoing research on the changing roles of the language teachers, particularly language teachers, amidst COVID-19. And this is also very related to the changing roles of our students, and of course, in dealing with this thing, new normal of education. So there have been many, let us say, challenges and difficulties that our students have been experiencing. And they do a lot of adjustments. But what is more important, knowing that we are fostering learner centeredness, is we are there as educators, as teachers, to always assist them, to always let them feel that we are with them and we are not going to leave them along the way. So that sense of security that we provide to our students would really is really something that will motivate them to pursue and not to stop, because anyway our teachers are here, we are well aided, we are well assisted, and our teachers do not leave us behind.
Thank you, ma'am. The other one is on screen, ma'am.
Is negotiated syllabus is more linked with learner centered? Okay, so um, in the international perspective, I believe learner centeredness is being promoted. So yes, as far as I know, our syllabus or our syllabi in the tertiary education or in the higher education are adapting or employing learner centeredness.
The other one is on screen, ma'am. And ma'am, last thing is that we have a lot of questions. Once you uh, get tired, you can ask us to leave because we have a lot of questions in a row. Then we will
Okay.
take your questions and we'll make a form and we'll send to
All right.
you to
So
answer.
yeah, Sir Sammy, I'm just going to answer this last question given by probably one of my students at 𝘆𝚉 College, Miss Glariel Kirsten Heraldez. I am glad to have you here. Good evening, Doc Jen. What are the appropriate and effective learning strategies for an online learning modality? So, online learning modality, we have plenty. No, we have gamification, we have educational, let us say, um, what's this educational platforms to assist us in providing our students with the right strategies online. So using Kahoot, using let us say what else, Canva. We can create, or we can have this instructional materials manipulated or designed by Canva. So there are plenty of online tools, which were also introduced earlier. Gamification is very evident and is one of the most commonly used nowadays.
That's great, ma'am. So, ma'am, should we end this conversation? Or will you answer a few questions more?
Um, I believe we're good already, Mr. Sammy.
Yeah, that's really much true, ma'am. That's why I'm asking from you. Okay, ma'am. I have only one to two questions from the registrations form, which our team has shortlisted. So I will just only present that in front of you. Then you can give me. Ma'am, this is one. Ma'am, the one is on the screen.
All right, this one. How can interdisciplinary learning help graduates in their careers. Okay, so we know how interdisciplinary learning works. It is integrating one branch of knowledge to other branches of knowledge. So, of course, speaking of our graduates, this type of learning is would be very helpful to them, most especially that not all our graduates would really land to this degree that they have earned in college. Say, for example, our education graduates. It's not a guarantee that they are education graduates, and yes, they have earned this degree. They would really land to teaching job. So, being able to train in education for 4 years or so, they have all these competencies in dealing with people from the different walks of life. So no matter where they go, wherever they go, whether in the field of teaching or not, maybe let us say they would land to a, let us say, a call center, or they will become a call center agent. And being a call center agent, you would need to have a very good communication skills. So with that, uh, it's not going to be hard for them to be able to adjust themselves in this in this kind of job, or in this nature of job, because they already have practiced these skills when they were still in the training ground. So that's how it works. We know that everything is interconnected. So whatever you learn from this particular, let us say, branch, you would be able to always integrate or incorporate this even to the other fields.
Okay, ma'am. So the last question is on screen. Then we will leave. You can leave, ma'am.
Is there a possibility to equally cater the students' needs and the teacher's practical convenience? Yes, of course, there is. As we continue to evolve in education, that is why from time to time, periodically, we have to review, we have to revisit our curriculum, because we would want to provide not just the students, but also the teachers with the equal opportunities to grow. So that is why I told you earlier that as teachers, we should not also stop seeking for professional and personal growth, because this would really help us to become effective, not just become efficient in the classroom, but become effective to our learners.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much for your joining, ma'am. You can leave, and we are very much thanks to you. And this is honor for us to have you here. Hopefully, we will have more sessions with you in future too.
Thank you also, Mr. Sammy, and to the Universal Webinars for this very great and rare opportunity that you've given to me. I'm happy that most of my students are here, and even some of my fellow teachers at Talisay City College. Thank you so much, and hope
Yes,
to
ma'am.
see
Here,
you in the future webinars.
ma'am. Here, I will only mention the last sentence. That thanks to Sir Osmar Labejo as well, from me and the
Yes,
Universal Webinars,
thank
that
you
he
also to Sir.
provides us.
How could I forget that, Sir Sammy? Thank you so much, Mr. Osmar. He is actually a very good friend of mine.
Yeah, he has given us opportunity to connect you, and we are very much happy to have you here. Thank you, Sir Osmar, and thank
Yes.
you, ma'am. We will have
Thank
more
you.
sessions with you and Sir Osmar as well, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
We will have more sessions with you and so on as well.
So now, as I ma'am has left us, so I request you all to just go ahead for the feedback form. I have already shared. You pupils can get the link from the comment section. Uh, for those who posted the questions but we couldn't answer, I'm really sorry for them because ma'am was in hurry, and we can't get her to stay here for the long time. She has a lot of other works as well. Other than that, those who have also posted the comments in the registration form, we only get 3 to 2 questions from there, because there was 900 registration forms and it was not easier for us to select the questions. So I'm really sorry for them as well. But if someone feels that his or her question was very much important, here or there, to answer, or he is confused, they can email us. We will forward that email to ma'am, and we will get the answer from Dr. Jane and will provide you that answer. So you people can do as well. If someone is thinking that we have not answered the question which is very much compulsory for them. I repeat, fill the feedback form. I'm here with you for the 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, I will end the session. But for the 5 minutes, I'm here to share you the feedback form link. You people can go ahead and can fill the feedback form. Please go ahead quickly and fill the feedback form. And as Dr. Jen says, that here are a lot of professors available and a lot of colleagues of Dr. Jen are here. So those who are very much interested to give a presentation and to do a webinar for us or for you people or for the students of the different corners of the world, they can join us as a speaker. I here online invite each and every professor to join us in this a good cause. We don't charge anything or don't say anything. We just want to share the knowledge. We just want to share the knowledge with the different peoples from the different type of words from the different peoples. So those who are willing to give the presentation and have a quality education or a degree, and they feel that they can provide the education to the world, they can share their knowledge. I request each and every professor who is with us to join us. They can email us, they can text us through the WhatsApp, they can text us on the Facebook or anywhere. They can say us to, hey, I'm this one and I want to join as a speaker for your webinars. This fine. That's the only simple method you can join. So I request each and everyone to join who are willing to give the presentation and have that type of education or the quality education. And this universal webinar is not linked with any specific field like the linguistics or the literature or anything else. We are very much universal. You can come up with any topic of the universe to present. So I repeat, any topic of the universe you can choose and come to present. So I request all those who want to do the presentation can send a text message or anything. And the guest for today, which is selected, I'm going to share with you. Is that is Justice Vergara. I'm just posting her comment as well as on here. It is Justice Vergara. If she is with us or if any of her colleague or the classmate or anyone is here, they can tell her that she is selected as the guest. If she is here, I request her to just share, left a text. If she is here, I request her to left a text. And the process is that she has to send us a text message, and then she will have be guided more. She can text us anywhere on the email or anywhere. Just write that, hey, I'm this one and you have selected me as your guest. The other guest for the tomorrow is Miss this one, Miss Shaila Magaramo. She can also join us live on the next webinars. She can also send us the message or anywhere. And other than the both, the one which is selected is Kiran Asif, which is asking from where we will get the copy of PDF today's lecture. You can ask for the PDF as well through the email. We will send back it to you through the email. Those who are willing to get the PDF or the PPT file, they have to just send us the email. So Ms. Kiran Asif, you are also selected as the next session's guest. And I also already told the two other peoples. The other one is a Shaila Magromo, and the last one was I think I'm also repeating. Yeah, it was here it goes. She was one who says that I have posted that comment and you people just put forward that comment. Thank you very much. I didn't remember her name. I'm just finding her if she is here again. I can. Yeah, it is Justice Vergara. So one was this one. So all three are selected as a guest, and those who are active, but I couldn't select them as a guest. Sorry for that. and you peoples can again be the guest in the next webinar by activate. And the other thing to be a guest is that yeah, we can also promote your requests. I suppose if one something or someone wants to be the guest and we didn't select him or her, he or her can also go and text us that hey, I want to be a good guest, I want to be your speaker. So this is very much friendly website or friendly channel. You people can join us live, you people can come to the presentations or anything else. So don't worry about anything, this is very much friendly page. Thank you very much, I'm going to end this session. Thank you very much, thank you all, thank you, have a good day. So I have shared the feedback form link before. I'm also sending it the last time. You people can go for it. Okay. I have already sent it. I am again sending it. Thank you.